Well, well, well. This is interesting news, isn't it? Let's check this out. This interests me very much so. I'd like to know just who they got to replace him. Sorry, the wind is kicking up out there.
So Steven Yeun is out as Sentry for Marvel Studios' upcoming movie, The Thunderbolts. It has been confirmed that he had a scheduling conflict, which is why he can no longer play Sentry in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. However, it looks like Marvel has wasted no time whatsoever and could have already cast a new person to play Sentry in the MCU, which makes perfect sense because
it's going to be
2024 already, and the movie has been delayed from 2024 to 2025, July 25th to be exact. Filming is going to have to happen soon, and Sentry is supposed to play a pretty big role, a really big role. I've seen some people asking on Twitter and in the comments, well, how big of a role was Sentry going to play? Does Steven Yeun no longer playing Sentry really affect the movie that much? Well, based off of what we've heard about the movie and Sentry's involvement from the insiders, yes. Sentry is supposed to be the main antagonist of the film. However, I should clarify that he is supposed to be the main physical antagonist. From what we've heard, there is going to be another villain who we've already been introduced to in the MCU. We'll talk about that in just a bit, but first let's talk about the actor who could be playing Sentry in the MCU. And if you love Marvel and want to stay up to date on the MCU, be sure to
come on, Wonder.
Any of the videos and for a chance to win a PS5.
That's how you hook you. That's how they hook you.
DC items. All you gotta do is subscribe and leave a comment down below. We pick one winner at the end of each month for our giveaway. So according to Daniel RPK, a very well-known insider in the industry, Marvel Studios has offered the role of Sentry to an actor. On his Twitter, he tweeted, "In collaboration with our DCU leaks, I can report Austin Abrams from Euphoria has the current offer."
Well, 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 isn't this interesting? Isn't this interesting? Now, I speculated that the reason why, and others did too, that the reason why Mr. Yeun dropped out is from all the fan backlash. He's not Sentry. He's Sentry as much as I'm Sentry. Now look, this guy right here, I don't really see Sentry, but with some work, you know what I mean? They could definitely make him into Sentry. But stick with me here. We know that this guy is way more Sentry than me or Mr. Yeun. We know this. Fans are so sick and tired of you gender swapping and race swapping and sexuality swapping. Everybody, stick to the source material that people love. I would say stick to the most beloved source material that the fans love, and you really can't go wrong. You will please the most people, okay, if you do that. Because if you don't, you're going to continue to have backlash like this. He had a scheduling conflict. But they didn't pick another Asian guy. Yeah, we'll see.
For Sentry and the Thunderbolts. Now, if you know who he is, let me know your thoughts about this in the comments down below.
I don't know who
a
this
lot of
guy
people out there
is.
have watched Euphoria because of Zendaya. That little Spider-Man and Tom Holland connection. I haven't personally watched Euphoria.
Yeah, the Tom
and I don't
Holland
really know
haircut
too
and
much
everything.
about Austin Abrams, but just by looking him up real quick on Google, looking at what he's been in, I'm sure he has the potential to be a good Sentry in the MCU.
Yeah, he's giving the long hair.
He's gonna have to buff up.
I was going to say,
Sentry
get him in good shape.
MCU's Superman.
Should be all right.
He's pretty much always insanely big in the comics. However, Marvel has recently revealed that there is kind of a new Sentry.
It looks like a little boy right here. So, I mean, I got to see what he looks like. You know what I mean? Now, I don't know if this is now. If this now, like, well, you're going to have to mature him up a bit, you know?
in Marvel Comics. It's really interesting, but basically there are going to be 3 different Sentries. There's going to be one called Farhad, another called Mallory, and then one more who honestly does really resemble Austin Abrams, whose name is Ryan. And Jason Liu, the writer for this series, gave us some plot details. He stated, "This entire series is a mystery where we follow Jessica Jones and Misty Knight as they figure out these catastrophic accidents caused by random strangers with Sentry's powers. You're going to witness a bunch of origin stories like Mallory Gibbs, a writer for Frontline News who lives with cerebral palsy, Farhad Anand, who is a mutant keeping a low profile as a door dish bicycle courier, and Ryan Topper, a teenage fanboy who gets to live his dream of becoming a superhero." And there are a few more further into the story, but the real question is, how are they all connected to Robert Reynolds? So right away I just gotta say that if they are introducing Sentry in the MCU, which of course they are, it's confirmed, he is 100% coming in the Thunderbolts, then it has to be Robert Reynolds. It has to be the true origin story of Sentry, not some kids who randomly get his powers. We need the origin story of Robert Reynolds in the MCU, the first Sentry, a drug addict who gains the power of 1,000,000 exploding suns. And here's the good news, I truly do believe it is going to be Robert Reynolds, because his origin story kind of lines up with what they're planning to do with his character in the...
Like I said, stick with the most beloved version of the character.
MCU in the Thunderbolts film. And of course, it has to do with the Super Soldier Serum, and also the real main villain of the film, the person who created Sentry. More on this in just a bit, but first, big thank you to Fume for sponsoring this video. Fume is a game changer for a lot of people in turning bad habits into good habits. A lot of people struggle with these bad habits, but Fume looks at these in a different. So it looks like Captain America Brave New World is going to touch on this a bit as well, with Thunderbolt Ross becoming Red Hulk due to Super Soldier Serum, and basically that's kind of how it's going to be for Sentry. However, instead of stumbling upon a lab and ingested the Golden Sentry Serum, the formula pushed his molecules slightly out of sync with reality, so he developed numerous abilities, including a genius intellect, Hulk-like super strength, faster than light speed, and molecule manipulating powers. All of these abilities basically made him one of the strongest beings in the universe. And here's where it all connects in the MCU and will happen in the Thunderbolts. In Marvel Comics, not too long after the Super Soldier Serum turned Steve Rogers into Captain America, the government made a Project Sentry. This was a program where a bunch of different scientific labs started to try and recreate or improve the Super Soldier Serum. Basically, they wanted to make the Super Soldier Serum stronger. I'm sure this sounds kind of familiar. It kind of sounds like what Thunderbolt Ross has been trying to do since the very first Hulk movie. However, Thunderbolt Ross is not the villain that I am speaking of. The villain that I am speaking of that is reportedly going to turn Robert Reynolds into the Sentry is Valentina Allegra de Fontaine, the woman who right now in the MCU is recruiting all of the Thunderbolts members. This is why I said before that Sentry is supposed to be the main
an overshot
physical antagonist.
to try to perfect the serum and
Valentina is
create
going to be the true
Sentry.
antagonist and is going to actually be the one behind Sentry. Now, from what we know, all of the mental components of Sentry and the Void are indeed going to be a part of the Thunderbolts movie, and that is kind of where things go wrong. Valentina makes Sentry. However, she ends up not being able to control him, and the Thunderbolts have to go up against him. He starts out as a member of the Thunderbolts until things go wrong. Now, what's interesting is that before, it was kind of speculated that Valentina is going to make Sentry in order to try and get vibranium from Wakanda. However, we have since then learned that the Thunderbolts are going to visit what is being referred to as Tiamat Island, because apparently the Celestial's body, which is now dead and sitting there in the middle of the ocean, that'll finally be addressed in Captain America Brave New World and the Thunderbolts, because apparently its body is made of adamantium. So apparently, from what we've heard from insider reports, Valentina is going to send her Thunderbolts team to Tiamat Island to gather and bring back adamantium. And this makes a lot of sense
Oh, that's a
considering
whole
what we
lot
saw
of it.
in Wakanda.
You'll never run
We've
out.
seen that she really is kind of a villain. Despite her job title and what she actually does, she is really a villain. And the issue here is we've heard that other countries are going to be fighting over Tiamat Island as well. However, none of them are going to have Sentry. So they wouldn't really stand a chance. However, the US government doesn't really have Sentry either. In the comics, before Robert Reynolds finds the Golden Sentry serum, he's a drug addict with psychiatric problems. In fact, that's really the only reason he becomes Sentry, is because he breaks into the lab and steals the serum. So later on, due to his psychiatric problems, he creates something called the Void. And the Void is basically his evil alter ego. And at first, Robert Reynolds, Sentry, didn't know that the Void was really from him. Once he realized that it was basically from him, he worked with Reed Richards and Doctor Strange to have his memory erased from everybody in the world, which also erased and got rid of the Void. Kind of sounds like Spider-Man No Way Home.
Yeah,
in fact, if you simply replace Sentry with Spider-Man at the end of Spider-Man No Way Home, and instead of all those villains coming through, it was just one major big villain, the Void, and Doctor Strange erases the memory of Sentry from everybody to stop the
that's
Void
a pretty
from
shot
coming
right
into their
there.
universe and killing everybody. That's essentially what happened. And from what we've heard, that is still going to happen in the Thunderbolts. The Void is still going to be a part of the Sentry, and he's still going to have his psychiatric problems, which is why Valentina is not going to be able to control him, and why the Thunderbolts are going to have to fight him. And we'll see what his powers are going to be like in the MCU, but if they're anything what they're like in the comics, the Thunderbolts are going to need some serious firepower. Because if he is as strong as he is in the comics, if he does have the power of 1 million exploding suns, the Thunderbolts really don't stand a chance.
No.
Which is why we've heard the insider reports stating that the Thunderbolts are really going to be going on somewhat of a suicide mission
I was like,
in the movie, and that's why they've kind of been referred to as the MCU's Suicide Squad. So the story for this movie sounds super interesting, and it looks like Sentry is going to be pretty much the same as Robert Reynolds is in the comics. So the question is now, if this report is accurate and Austin Abrams has been offered the role of Sentry,
he looks so
MCU,
young.
what do you
Guess
think?
they got him signed on for a few movies.
Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. Please don't forget to like the video. And
all right. Well, looks like they're backtracking and they're going back to cast someone who actually could play the character. Could, people would say, okay, finally. So let's see if they continue to do this. I told you, I got a sliver of hope that I'm hanging on to with Disney, that they're going to start casting the right people. They're going to start giving us the right stories. They're going to stop making everything so much about gender and sexuality and what's between your legs and all that stuff. And they're just going to make good stories that include men and women again. Hey, who'd have thought? Get over to Cosmic Wonder and subscribe. Tell them Tyrone Magnus sent you. 10 million subscribers.